Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be covering a topic probably should have done sooner, but life happens. It's regarding Facebook. So, semi recently, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, a whistleblower came out. What's your name? Sarah Wynn Williams. And she dropped some pretty heavy bombs and some serious accusations against Facebook. So, I thought it'd be a good idea to go back and look. I'm not going to review all of Facebook's history because it's just not what I happen to research and cover. But I will be covering the congressional hearing he had in 2018, and then the claims that she made in 2025, and then I'm going to give my position and opinions, and probably some theories as well. So stick around. But we're going to start with the 2018 one. And so in the 2018 congressional hearing, there were a lot of accusations made against Zuckerberg. It was mainly against like user privacy and like user data privacy. Like that's the best way to describe it. Like how much privacy they have, how much Facebook can monitor, and what they do with the data. And the other one that was kind of really pushed upon was like Facebook pushing like mental health issues and also political censoring and these different things. So Facebook, I think, tried to say that while there might be some political censoring, it's necessary. For example, like you don't want terrorist propaganda being promoted and spread around on Facebook. So to an extent, you have to have some degree of censoring, which they agreed to, but they had problems with saying that like, yeah, but what about certain Christian content that seems to be flagged and taken down, stuff along those lines. And he just flat out said that was a mistake. So we're just going off what he claimed. When they started going into the user privacy agreement, I don't know if anybody out there has actually read through the full thing, but they are unreasonably long at times. I swear, just like reaching 100 pages of pure legal speech. Nobody's reading that. 90% of the time, when you get a user privacy agreement for these social media apps, you kind of just click agree and move on with your day. So they say that he's doing it on purpose to obfuscate what privacy agreements you're really giving away, or what like rights you have to the data you use when you're on their app. He says that it's not his job to essentially like read this to people. He's giving them the information. If they want to read it, they can read it. If they want to agree to it, they can agree to it. But regardless of how simple we make it or how complex they make it, it's up to the user to read it and understand it and agree to it. So obviously, people in Congress get upset, and honestly, it probably should upset most people because it seems like sometimes it's kind of done on purpose to have like excessively long terms of service. But that's an opinion. That's not what he said, so we're going to move on from that one. So the other things that he started going into was how Facebook accesses user data and what they do with it. So one of the things that that Zuckerberg got attacked for was that Facebook apparently collects user data even when users aren't actually on the app itself or logged off the app, and they collect data about the system, the sites they're visiting, and things along those lines, like things you even do on the system. So I think he didn't say this, but I think it applies to other apps as well. So how do I word this? Yeah, okay. So he was basically claiming that they were doing this for quote unquote personalized advertisements and security purposes. I don't know what security purposes he's talking about, and the personalized advertisements I don't think is worth. Again, this is another opinion, but I don't think is worth basically them just having access to your device and everything you do on your device. But again, these are the claims that he's making. So he kind of admitted to it that this is something that they have access to. So they have access to your device and the sites that you visited. And he also makes a very bold claim in saying that we do not sell user data. So there's a difference, I think, between, or distinction that he's trying to make between selling like an individual's user data, like their algorithm, scrolling habits, their name, address, personal information kind of stuff, and overall trends that are taking place on their platform. So he didn't say this, but it seems to imply that that's the stuff that he more sells to advertisers, which is the general movement of people on their platform or influencing the platform, not necessarily someone's personal information and scrolling habits. Because if you know anything about these algorithms, they're supposed to be catered to what you like to view. So your scrolling habits and your algorithm on some of these apps kind of help to define who you are, just to be completely honest with you. Because the algorithms themselves are kind of based on the psychology of getting you to watch as long as possible. So if your scrolling habits show a specific thing, it means this because that's what you like to view, or at least at a time, that's what you were viewing for longer periods of time. So that being said, and then obviously every now and then it throws something in to see if you like something new so it can get you hooked on something else. He also admitted to boosting certain types of news in the algorithm, but he doesn't really, like I said, define what quality he's going to promoting or censoring these different kinds of news. So that was 2018, right? So what's that? 7 years from now? 2025 from 20? Yeah, 7 years from now. Or actually, I should say in 2021, a woman named Wynn Williams left Meta, and she was going to try and come forward as a whistleblower. But according to her own testimony, she said and actually some of this is provable, she was viciously prosecuted legally, and claims that basically they threatened her or just started saying every time you say a disparaging comment, true or not, about Facebook, it's going to be a $50,000 penalty, which is kind of wild. I'm honestly surprised that's even a law. I don't even know how you pull that off. And she also claims that she was being sued for hundreds of millions of dollars, and claimed that they threatened her, saying not even Congress can save you because you sign contracts of X, Y, and Z. Again, I don't know how any of this is legal. That is beyond me. I've never, hopefully never will be targeted like that, but it is what it is. So after all that, 8 years later from the 2018, she comes forward in 2025. I can't remember the exact date, but it was a couple weeks ago. And she starts coming out with some serious accusations. She starts by introducing the idea that they're trying to discourage her from being a whistleblower, which I think is against the law. I don't have the laws in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that's against the law. And then that's when she starts getting into the juicy stuff. And what I mean by that is kind of, you'll see in a sec. So she claims that Facebook had deep inner workings with China. And what does that mean? One of the huge ones that she claimed was that she shared AI technology, which helped them build out DeepSeek, which is wild. And the reason she claimed they did that is because he wanted to push AI to be more open source over here, and thought that the competition with China would push private companies to make AI more open source. That was the claim. Like I said, I don't know how much I'm not going to discredit the whistleblower because I don't know how much of the stuff she's true or not. My assumption is a decent amount of the stuff she's saying is true, because I don't see why you prosecute someone to the extent that they did if she didn't have some dirt on them. But that's just, again, my opinion. So that was one. They essentially shared AI technology with China to help develop DeepSeek. Then she said that they offered censorship tools to the Chinese Communist Party to suppress bad content about them. And all of this, I think, was in the name, she also claimed, of essentially getting access to China's user market. So she also says that part of this deal was that Facebook was willing to give China access to U.S. user data, which obviously is in direct contradiction, or it can be seen as a contradiction into the 2018 one. And the reason I say can be, well, I'll say in a second or a little bit later. But how this worked was he didn't directly say, we'll give you U.S. user data. He more so said, we'll pass U.S. user data through China and store certain user data in China. And that was just part of the agreement. So the agreement wasn't that they would just directly give it to him. But I think it was like a wink, wink, nod, nod kind of thing, where at least that she's implying, where it's like they knew China was just going to just take the data and do whatever they wanted with it, right? And she claimed the project name was Project Aldrin. So they didn't directly sell the user data to them, but as part of the agreement, they would move and store it in China, right? And they were also attempting to build like a physical data pipeline between the U.S. and China. So all this stuff is crazy, and in my opinion, it definitely teeters on the edge of treason. But again, we'll get to that in a second. So the other thing that she claimed that kind of goes in direct contradiction with what was said in 2018, which I think I might have forgot to say, but she mentioned something about like teen targeting, and essentially claims that when teenage girls delete selfies, they flag them, and flags them as a high moment to sell beauty ads to them. And the reason why this is so bad, and I probably shouldn't be laughing, is just kind of how like I think it's a shock thing for me. But essentially, what they would do is they'd use signals of insecurity and depression to try and deliver like emotionally exploitive advertising. That's the best way to put it. And Zuckerberg was definitely aware of this. So in 2018, I think I might have forgot to mention this. Congress people were complaining that they tried to use too much like emotional manipulation in their algorithms. Zuckerberg saying that he doesn't think that social media has a direct effect on depression or any of these things. Clearly, this kind of proves otherwise. So obviously, it does have some kind of effect if you're monetizing off of it. So I just don't believe that's true. Now, the crazy part with all this is, like I said, these are all crazy, some serious accusations, and I kind of believe it. But I mean, my whole thing is like, where do you go from here? I honestly don't know what to say. Like, you have TikTok, which, I mean, a lot of people were trying to defend it for some reason. And honestly, I feel like sometimes it's just like China propaganda, especially based off of the combination of what she was saying and TikTok just flat out being owned by China, whether people like to believe it or not. I think have pushed a lot of things to kind of discredit elements of truth, which that I think there's a lot of Chinese propaganda trying to make people think they're crazy, even though they're seeing what they're seeing. So, for example, people saying that ByteDance is owned by China, therefore China owns TikTok. When I was scrolling through social media, I came across tons of people just being like, oh, that's a stupid comment. The guy who went and appeared before Congress said he was from Singapore. It's a Singaporean country. Again, it's just... But when you see who actually owns TikTok and it's ByteDance, and that ByteDance is owned by China, it's like, all right, bro, you're stretching a bit. But regardless, I don't know where you go from here because there's one of two scenarios that took place. Either the government didn't know, which is kind of terrifying, that one of their greatest propaganda machines was being influenced by a hostile power. Again, I don't know how you don't know that. That's kind of crazy to me. Or the other one, which is even more terrifying, which is that they did know. And the reason I say that is because where do you go with that? If you know that your population's data, essentially like who they are, users' data online or their fingerprint is kind of like low-key who they are. Like, let's just be honest here. So what do you do with that? You're telling me the government, if that is the case, that they knew, that they essentially just sold all of who they were to a separate country. And I'm going to have to pause this because I think I have to go in a moment. But we'll get back to this in a second. I'm not done ranting. All right, and we're back. Sorry about that brief intermission. But anyway, so the other option is they did know and they didn't do anything about it. And so the reason why I lean towards them actually knowing is because I don't, like, there's certain things that have been proven, they just don't get talked about that often. Like, for example, I don't think, let me put it this way, I don't think all the government knew. I think it would probably just be like the high people in the executive branch. Like, I think there are plenty of people who in Congress who probably did not know about this and probably just tied up in their own political games. But the executive branch, like the same people who pressured Facebook among other social medias to spread like misinformation for elections or COVID misinformation or suppress the Hunter Biden news or like requesting private messages from users and Meta for quote unquote counterterrorism, or like when the NSA just flat out used data pipelines to steal like information from users for like global surveillance. So you're telling me they could do all, and I guarantee you they haven't stopped that. I know they claim it, and I can't prove it, obviously, but it's one of those things where it's like you know it, but you can't prove it, and everybody does. I'm telling you they're probably still doing that. Let's just being honest here. You're telling me they did all that, but they didn't know that they were being influenced or working with like an enemy of the states? So that means one of two. I mean, that only leads you to the conclusion that they wanted to destroy, and for me at least, that they wanted to destroy the country. Like, I don't know how else you put that. And I don't know why they'd do that. Or it could be something completely different, like a 1984 scenario, where they're trying to, like, this is definitely a conspiracy theory, so maybe it's real, maybe it's not. It's just a theory. maybe it is a case where they're trying to like create an enemy for everyone to hate, but really they're on the same side. But I don't know, because at the same time, if that were the case, I don't understand the logic behind like stifling Chinese production. So I know people. There have been. I'm not a Trump like advocate. Like I'm pretty indifferent towards the man, to be completely honest with you. I'm not someone who thinks he's going to be like the savior of America. But I will say this: whatever they had planned, I think if Camilla won by the end of the 4-year term, this country most definitely would have been toast, in my opinion. I think whatever Trump did, or his involvement, has stalled what they were planning. Because, like I said, I don't see how. I'm pretty sure all this stuff happened during the. All right, we're gonna have to stop this once again. I'll be back in a moment. All right, take 4. Well, not really take 4. More like recording session 4. Regardless, I think we left off saying that the government probably knew, and I have no idea what to do with that. Oh yeah, I think I was saying with Trump, I'm not like necessarily a Trump advocate, but I do think that his presence has stalled whatever plans they had in mind. That's all. And I'm thinking that maybe whatever he saw with this whole Elon thing, or maybe something else when he came into office, provoked him to do like a make or break moment where he's attempting to bring America back. And it's like he's like it was gonna go on its way out anyway. So at least if this works, it's a gamble. You know, he's rolling the dice. If it works, and we bring America back. If it doesn't, then you know it is what it is. But that's kind of how I look at a lot of the stuff Trump's doing at this point. Just because it's like so drastic and wild. But like I said, I don't know how bad it was when he got in and what he saw. So I have no idea. Another thing that I thought was interesting when I was talking to a dear friend of mine was that I don't know if Zuckerberg can even technically be charged with treason because he while he did technically do business in and with China, he didn't directly sell user data to them, and he didn't give them any government access. Even with the AI, I think it's his to give away, technically speaking. So I don't know how you prosecute someone for cheating. It's not like when they the guy leaked all the stuff on the CIA and all that. I forget what his name was, Snowden. When he did all that stuff with the government and the CIA and NSA and all that stuff, it's not the same because he's not leaking government information. So I don't know if he can technically be charged with treason. So, and there's also, by the way, this happened 3 weeks ago. There's been like zero backlash. Nobody's talking about this. Just so you know, like I feel like I haven't seen anybody actually talking about what happened in that hearing and the claims. It's kind of wild. Maybe it's Facebook suppressing it in the algorithm, so it's just not going forward. And I don't even know how much longer TikTok's gonna be around. Which leads me to my next thing. The timing on this is so odd. Like there was a period where the legacy media was complaining that independent media was spreading too much misinformation. And now all of a sudden, the 2 of the biggest platforms are potentially going to be taking a hit, which is TikTok and Meta. Very interesting. Another thing that's very interesting is while all this is going on, OpenAI apparently is coming out with a social media too, which I'm not going to cover in this video because it's a bit extensive. But the stuff that they're planning to do with OpenAI social media, especially if you're a Christian and you believe in a more literal interpretation of Revelation, definitely a bit frightening. I'm not gonna lie. We'll cover that in that video. But regardless, so yeah, that's what's going on with Facebook. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Thanks for tuning in.